Welcome to the Shower Epiphanies podcast, where we explore your hidden thoughts and desires, revealing your greatest drop the mic moments. Now, here's your host, Art Costello.
Welcome to the Shower Epiphanies podcast. Today, Anmol Singh is my guest. Anmol has made his name as a high-paid consultant in the trading and investing industry. He launched Live Traders in 2015, which is now voted the #1 trading education firm for 3 years in a row. He has coached and trained over 1,000 plus traders and investors, some of whom have gone on to run their own hedge funds. He is considered the leading expert in the trading psychology space, having helped thousands of traders all over the world dealing with psychological and behavioral issues that arise when high stakes are on the line. He brings a unique view on success and shows how the same concepts that he has used to help million-dollar traders and applicable to your day-to-day lives, irrespective of the industry or career that you are in. Welcome to the show, Anmol. It is a pleasure having you here.
Thanks for having me. Looking forward to chatting with you.
Yeah. Can you tell us your history, how you got started and how this all came about?
Sure. So I was, never grew up wanting to be a trader or wanting to be in the stock market. As a kid, I was always really bad at mathematics and with numbers. So this was not a career that I was planned to go into. I hated numbers. I barely passed in school when I was going through the mathematics class. But, I graduated. I did the bare minimum needed to graduate. And then I went into university in London, went to Brunel University to get my business degree. And then there, it was a 4-year degree. And in the third year or the second year, you had to apply for internships. You had to do 1 year of work. And then you come back the next year to complete your graduation. So that's kind of how I did. And in the second year of my university, I started applying to different jobs, different banks, Goldman Sachs, Citibank, and I didn't get in anywhere, didn't get accepted for internship anywhere. And then that made me kind of look into, hey, what do I do? Look at alternative paths since I wasn't able to get an internship, not even in the top one, but not even in a startup. So I had to do something in my second year. And that's where I started reading books about, financial markets, reading about trading, watching TV shows. And, as a kid, you grow up, you watch these movies about Wall Street, that there's obviously money to be made in those markets. So that was kind of my fascination. And that kind of led me to a road where I started taking courses, programs, really try to do it on my own. And in the second year of my university is when I really just dive in deep into the financial markets. It's about learning. And then, it led me to a career which I never imagined would happen.
That's really amazing. And what I find fascinating about it is that you didn't buckle under. You've got that drive in you, that entrepreneurial drive that makes you want to be successful.
Right.
What do you attribute that to?
I think I attribute to, seeing my father work really hard. So, I grew up in India, and in India, my father didn't have much business, when the British left. India and Pakistan were separated, and then the whole thing was going over. But my parents actually left their hometown where they were just with few belongings and left towards India. So when the partition happened, the divide, that part went into Pakistan. So they literally left everything and went to the part in India. And, they didn't have a job. My dad didn't graduate from school or high school. He didn't do any of that. But then they worked, really, really hard, really focused work. And they built something from nothing. So as a child, I grew up, seeing him travel, work hard. Maybe I saw him 30 days out of a year I saw him. The rest of the days he was traveling, working hard. So I think that work ethic, that commitment to providing for your family, I think that is what I attribute my, drive towards.
You're the third guest that I've had on that is from India. And every one of them, every guest that I've had has had the same story. The girl that I just interviewed a few weeks ago came with $200 in her pocket. She was gay and came to America and now has 6 multi-million-dollar companies that she owns. And the thing about each and every one of you is that you work so hard and you're so dedicated to what your craft is. And I think that that's what separates successful people from not successful people. It doesn't matter what country you come from, what ethnicity you are. If you're willing to work hard and apply yourself and not give up ever, never give up, you just keep driving forward, you're going to find that success.
The need to have closure in any given situation is sheer human nature. And when it comes to romantic relationships, this desire skyrockets. Has your previously failed relationship left you in immense pain? It's not uncommon for people to shy away from a new relationship after their first one fails miserably. The fear of the unknown makes them hide in a shell to prevent any future heartbreak. Relatable? Despite wanting to love and be loved, you can't take the plunge if your mind and heart are still locked somewhere in the past. Maybe you aren't aware of the power of releasing the past, or perhaps you don't know how to do it. Art Costello in his online course teaches the art of moving on from bad places to happier, more stable ones. This course can change your life for good, helping you beat all kinds of negativity on the road to eternal bliss. Sign up now before the gloominess gets the better of you at expectationacademy.com.
This is really going to probably be a funny question to you. Do you think that you learned more by going to college or by just working hard doing and learning?
I think both. I definitely learned while working hard and, learning as you go. So sort of like, Carol Dweck teaches in her book, the growth mindset, right? Try one thing, it doesn't work, you try another way. And I think that's one of the things, like, at least for me and my family, we grew up with like, hey, if that solution doesn't work, find a creative solution, right? Go left, go right, go around it, go jump over it, like find a solution. There's always something, some way that can work. So looking for that creative solution while on the go on the job definitely helped me. I would say I didn't really learn a lot in university. I mean, learning from the books, from the curriculum, from the course. I didn't learn much there, but I did learn from the relationships I built, at university, and also the extra activities I did outside the university. So maybe, in universities, joining like a business club, joining an entrepreneurship club. For me, I started the Trading and Investing Society. There was none. It was a business society, right? But there was no society related to trading and investing. So I was like, hey, let's start something. I got a few people together. We started the Investing and Trading Society. I was active part of the Entrepreneurship Society. So I think that's where I learned the most interacting with people rather than like the actual classroom curriculum. But, learning on the go, on the job, on the fly has been the best way to learning from my mistakes and also the mistakes of others.
Yeah, I agree that I think that it has, I know that from my standpoint and being in the psychology world, theory is great, but practical application is far greater value than anything else when you start working with people. I know that you've done work with the psychology of training and the behavioral aspects of trading. Can we talk about that a little bit? How you help people with those areas?
Sure. So I think, it all starts with one of the things that one of the first chapters in the book that I wrote was integrity. One of the biggest things I teach people is being a person of integrity, meaning do what you said you were going to do and then do it when you said you were going to do it, right? If you do everything that came out of your mouth and if you really believed every single thing that came out of your mouth, you really believed it, you would go ahead and do it. So I try and teach people to, not say something that they're not serious about or they're not going to follow through on. Because if you say something and you don't do it, that results in low self-esteem and that results in low confidence. But if you start executing on everything that you say and doing it and completing it when you said you were going to do it, that slowly builds a series of self-confidence, self-discipline, and your self-esteem. So I think that's kind of how one of the things that I teach people is focus on the goal, focus on the ROI, focus on the money, focus on trading successfully and making that income rather than focusing on being right. I think the ego, the focus on being right is what causes most people, to not succeed, be it in business, be it in investing, be it in trading, is that don't try and be right. You could be wrong. It's fine. Learn from it, move on, right? So don't focus on being right. Focus on the ROI, right? So as they say, return on investment is more important than return on your ego. So that's one of the things that, people definitely need to realize. And integrity is being a person of integrity is the biggest difference maker. I mean, can you imagine how great life would be if we did everything that we said we were going to do? Hey, I'm going to start working out on Monday, and you actually did it, right? If I'm going to start eating healthy on Monday, and you did it, your whole life would improve if you just did the things that you said you were going to do.
Well, and that's one of the things that I always preach about because I write about expectations a lot. My research is in expectations. And when we have, and I'm not talking about expectations of others, I'm talking about your core expectations, which I happen to agree with you. Integrity is probably the most important one. And then when you live in a life of integrity and you do what you say you're going to do and you are honest, the expectation is always for greatness. You're always thinking higher, and you don't fall into that trap of negative expectations where, where the thought pattern is, oh yeah, and let's take the investment industry. Oh yeah, I'm going to invest this money, but I don't know that it's going to work. Instead of, I'm going to invest this money and make it work for me.
Right.
Are we on the same page when it comes to that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, in trading, another one of the things we talk about, similar to you, is having a positive expectancy, right? Mathematically, as well as in your mindset, like having positive expectancy. Because if you're not positively expecting a certain thing to happen, then why even do it in the first place? So, that's one of the things people need to keep in mind. I totally agree with you on that.
Actually, out of physics is where I got the formula for expectation therapy, because in physics, there's what's called the formula for expectancy, how scientists can predict the outcome of experiments. And I took that formula and turned it into a behavioral formula for expectation therapy. And it's basically three things. It's identify, clarify, and solidify with a written plan. So, it's very simple, but it's so effective.
Right.
And there's a mathematical background to it. So how do you apply that to your trading?
Sure. So I think what we talked about, focusing on not being right, and then the integrity piece of it would be, let's say you get into an investment and you predefine. So the way we teach people is like you predefine your exit points, right? If I get into a stock, let's say $100, okay, my target is 120. So when it gets to 120, you get out. There's no greed. Hey, let me see if I can get 130. No. Get out 120, that's your predefined exit point. And maybe on the downside, your exit point would be, okay, if the stock goes from 100 to 90, I'll get out. I'll take my loss, move on to the next trade, next investment, rather than just holding and hoping. That's what a lot of most newer people do when they don't really know how the markets work, is they buy and hope, right? Rather than buy and hope, what they do is buy and hope. They have no strategy. So they focus on being right. No, I think it's going to come back up. Stock's going to come back up. Let me buy some more. Maybe let me average down, let me get my average price lower, and it's going to come back up. And they keep holding. The losses that was supposed to be a small loss keeps getting bigger and bigger, because all this while they wanted to be right. And they didn't have integrity, which is getting out as per the predefined plan. So every single way we teach people is you make the plan before you get into the trade, right? And then you follow, and your only goal as a trader then is to follow the plan, not to, think on the go. Is you just simply follow the plan, because that plan would have already had a positive expectancy. That's why we're doing a certain strategy, because it works over time. And the goal is to execute on that strategy rather than letting your, thinking or the emotions influence your trading decisions.
So then it would be fair for me to say, on the way that you teach, it's better not to trust your gut feelings and go with your predetermined feelings.
Right, exactly, because our gut feeling is not statistically tested, right? Whereas a certain trading strategy is statistically tested. So, I can lie, anybody can lie, but one thing that never lies is numbers. So any strategy that we're executing has already have like, okay, here's last 3 years of statistics. It works 65% of the time. And, here's the numbers. And now you're just executing on that model over and over rather than, making stuff on the go, because our gut feel is usually influenced by, emotions like fear and greed, especially as it comes to trading the markets. The gut feel is influenced by fear and greed. And that's some of the things we want to minimize as a trader. In life, I always say, trust the gut feel, right? But if there's statistics suggesting otherwise, then you might not want to do it.
That's what I was thinking about. I find that most people don't trust their gut. They'll get emotional. They'll let emotional things get in the way. They'll let all kinds of things get in the way. And then on other issues, people do trust their gut. I can think of a lot of issues. When I was in Vietnam as a Marine, I actually trusted my gut a lot because I had a very intuitive feeling about when we would enter an area. There could have been landmines. There could have been a lot of different things. So I have learned over time to trust my intuitive gut. But I also understand that when it comes to money and investing, you can't do that. That you've got to look at it logically, systematically, and just act and have a plan.
Right. And I think also because the gut feel is built up and becomes stronger with experience. So let's say if you were, in Vietnam, going to war, and, you've been through the scenarios before, or maybe in drills, maybe you practice the drill, maybe you've been in a scenario. Now your gut feel is coming from experience, right? Which actually has a very good power to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going into the battle, and you trust your colonel. If he says something, he has a gut feel, you're more likely going to trust him. But if there's like a new recruit who's coming into battle and he says, I have a gut feel, you're more likely going to, ignore that one. Mm-hmm. So I think the same thing with trading. If you're a seasoned investor, seasoned trader, you build your gut feel over time because you've seen those patterns play out before and that your experience influences your gut feel. But if you're a brand new trader who's never traded the market before, your gut feel doesn't really mean anything, right? So I think that's one of the things, as you said, in war, you had those gut feel in the battle. But yeah, you have already had the experience that created, giving you more credence to use that.
Has anyone ever inspired you to discover a happier, healthier, and more fulfilled you? It is a magical experience, isn't it? Inspiration is indeed very powerful, yet it's often undermined. It can lift you from the ground to the sky in no time. Have you ever thought about returning the favor by inspiring the people around you? If you don't think you have it in you, we have good news for you. Art Costello's online course has everything you need to learn to supercharge yourself and shape your character into a powerful personality. Get ready to discover your strengths and unleash the creativity within. Don't believe it? Check it out yourself by signing up for this life-changing course at expectationacademy.com. That's expectationacademy.com.
When you're a hedge fund manager and managing millions of dollars and it's other people's money, it's got to be psychologically stressful for people because, you're taking in all kinds of information and have to process it and evaluate it to really see if that's going to be fit into the financial plan for growth that you want. Do you do anything to train people to handle the stress and the chaos that sometimes you see on Wall Street and all that?
Right. I think the way I do that is, again, coming all the way back to numbers, like back-tested numbers, right? Testing the strategy so you know exactly what to expect. So if I take a strategy that someone might be trading, which has, let's say, a win rate of 50%. So 50% of the time it's going to win, 50% of the time it's going to lose. But when it wins, maybe you make, $2,000 on it. But when you lose maybe $1,000 on it. Right. So now by that mathematical model, if you lose 100 or lose 1,000, make 2,000, and you write half the time, even 50% of the time, it's a profitable strategy. Right. So then the emotions don't come into play. So when you lose a trade, it's not like, oh, what's happening with me? Why am I losing? You already know, out of the model, out of 10, 5 are supposed to lose. Okay, that's just one of the losing trades. And then you take the next one, maybe that one wins. You're like, okay, the models keep playing out. And sometimes you realize that if a model has 50% win rate, then it's going to lose 50% of the time. And it's also possible that 5 of those losses come one after the other. So when, again, they happen, you have to just put your mindset, is the number still holding up as per my strategy? 50% win rate? Okay, great. Nothing to worry about. You keep doing it. I think the emotions come into play when people don't know the numbers, right? They don't know what to expect. As you said, they don't know what to expect. Once, if you know the numbers, you know exactly what to expect and you're prepared for those losses. So, I always try and get them to think like logically, like get the emotions out. Okay, you think this, you think that. No, let's just come down to the model. How's the numbers looking? So I get the emotions out and get them to come on a spreadsheet or a piece of paper, because that turns off the emotional brains, turns on the logical brain. And now they're thinking in terms of numbers, and that keeps them disciplined. And again, other things I teach is just, take a deep breath, get up from your trading desk, right? Take a little walk and come back again. And you'll notice those emotions that you've had of doing something at the moment dissipate as you take a walk.
Yeah, that fits right in with my idea that I teach a lot on how to expect the unexpected, because when you learn how to expect the unexpected, you actually are forming this idea of how to handle every situation. And it's something that actually I learned in Vietnam because you never knew what to expect. So how do you survive every day when you don't know what to expect? Well, you're right. It comes in your training, but it's not only training physically, it's training the mind. It's training the mind to be aware of the different possibilities and the scenarios that can happen at any given moment and running them through your head and how you're going to react. Is it similar in the financial trading industry that, when certain things happen and you're prepared for them, you've actually learn to expect the unexpected.
Right, exactly. Because it'll all come down to your training and what you've already pre-planned for. And sometimes the unexpected will happen. Sometimes instead of, let's say having 5 losses in a row, maybe you have 7, right? Then you realize, oh, that's the environment, right, that I'm currently in. And that could happen. But, you can be prepared for it by looking at, again, data from the previous years where you see, okay, previous year's data suggests, there's going to be a couple months like that every year, going to, get the strategy to not be out of the norm. So again, you come back, take a look at the numbers, take a look at how last year did or how 2016 it did. And maybe you notice 10 months out of 12 months, it worked great. 2 months, the strategy didn't work that good. So again, now you see, okay, this month, tough month I'm going through is all in the statistics. It happened last year too. It happened the year before. There's always a couple months like that. So you always try and get yourself back to the logical side of things and not paying too much attention to the emotional side of things.
Yeah. And you're talking about a lot of people I don't know because I'm not a trader, but I know a lot of people think like 1 or 2 or 3 trades a day. You're talking about doing maybe 25, 30 trades a day, aren't you? Isn't that what you're dealing with? Or could it be as low as 1 or 2?
Right. So I think that would depend upon the market environment. There's some days where I take no trades. Right. This Friday, I take 0 trades because nothing met my strategy. And that's when I said to the discipline, well, my strategy is looking for this to happen. That criteria wasn't met. So in that case, I have to be disciplined enough to not trade and get out of the itch of, doing something because you want to work, right? You're sitting in your desk for 2-3 hours looking at charts and graphs and you're like, I didn't trade anything. It feels weird. But at that time, you have to realize and bring yourself to the criteria that, okay, here's my specific criteria. None of that was met. So that's not my strategy. I'm not going to trade. And some days, everything's hitting your strategy, everything's hitting your criteria, and you might take 5-6 trades in a day. But typically, I'm usually around 1 to 3 trades a day, right? The way we do is kind of like a sniper strategy. You're hiding in the bushes. You're not really doing a whole lot. You're waiting for that criteria to be met where your odds are going to work. You're going to have a positive expectancy doing that strategy over and over. So you just wait. You wait for that criteria to be met, and then you come out of the bushes, take your sniper, and get one shot. Rather than going with a machine gun and just shooting like the hundreds of stocks over, we kind of trade like a sniper.
Yeah, that makes sense. It really does, because if you had to do this over multiple times, you would have a hard time keeping track of it, I guess. Has the computer era really helped your trading industry?
Computer error for me, it's actually computer errors have never gone in my favor. Funny how the markets work. Anytime I've made a mistake or there's an error in the software or the technology, for me it's always gone against me. I don't think I've ever had any errors go in my favor, which is good in a way, because sometimes you make an error, it goes in your favor, that creates bad habits because you're like, oh, maybe it happens again. So it's actually good that mistakes never went in my favor because now I know not to make them.
Yeah. Well, you want to avoid all the mistakes you can. It just makes sense. What I was trying to allude to was the computer era, not errors that we make, but since computers have come on the scene in the late 80s and 90s, has that really helped the trading industry be able to trade better? Because you used to have to do it off the floor, didn't you, in Wall Street? And now people can trade off of their computer.
Right. I think now it's made it easier for anybody to get started. Because again, back in the day, you needed a broker. You needed to call the broker. Broker will call you back in a little bit, let you know how it's done. So the speed was very slow, right? The speed for you to get into a trade and get out was always a long period of time because you had to call the broker and he had to execute the order. And then also it was expensive. Back in the day, commissions used to be $100, $200, $50 a trade. Now they went as low as $4. But recently, actually, some of the brokers came out with free commissions. So that's where the industry is going. So if you're not paying any commission, you can open up your laptop, open up a browser window and just take a trade. And even phone applications now, you can open up your phone. There's an app, you take a trade, instantly it'll get executed. So I think now it's made it easier more than ever for people to get started and to, not really focus on giving your money to an investment advisor or a mutual fund because they're going to charge ridiculous fees. You'd rather save those fees because that will compound your returns over time. So I think anybody can learn how to do it. It's just that you'll have to be willing to learn, just like anything else.
Don't know which direction you want your life to take? Are you sinking deep down into the pit of uncertainties day by day? So, what's the secret to leading a happy, satisfied life? It's taking matters into your own hands. But what if the matters in question are a total blur? Art Costello's Expectation Academy course aims to tell you exactly how you can get some clarity in your life. This course can be your savior on your journey to reinventing yourself. While you certainly can't plan your whole future ahead, you can definitely control twists and turns your life takes. So what are you waiting for? Sign up for this course now at expectationacademy.com. Get a chance to broaden your horizons and add meaning to your life. That's expectationacademy.com.
I'm going to give you a scenario. I'm a college student and I go to a major college here in the States, and I've got an extra $30 a week that I can play with. Can I get into the trading industry?
You absolutely can, but not instantly. So, most brokers will have an account minimum of $100 or $200. So that's something that you're going to have to need. So what I usually suggest people who are, in college or brand new or don't have money or maybe have a job, but there's not enough left for you to open a trading account with, what I always suggest is save. So if you can save $30 a week, a month, then great. In the while you're saving money, right? So every week, with discipline, deposit $30 in your account on a separate account that you can't spend or touch. Right? Keep growing that savings account. And while you're saving, learn, purchase books on trading or investing, read books, go on YouTube, watch videos, purchase courses, right? Read ebooks and take trials to places and just come in. So your goal should be to first learn. And then when you've saved up enough money, then you can remove the L from learn and you can finally focus on earn. So, that's what you need to do is you got to save up the money. And once you have $500, $300, I think that usually is a good amount to start to come into currency trading, because currency brokers, will open an account for $100, and that's the easiest way to get started. Whereas if you're going to trade stocks, you're going to need a lot more money. I would suggest at least $2,000 to $5,000 saved up if you want to jump into the stock market. But if you want to jump into currency markets, you could jump in with as low as $100.
If I was to give you $100,000 to invest, what could you do with that?
$100,000, if you were looking to invest in the market or you were looking to give it to somebody?
No, I'm just looking at giving it to somebody to invest for me.
Okay.
I guess what my question is for you, how would you invest my money if I gave you $100,000?
Right. So, $100,000, what I would personally suggest, because I can't really solicit funds from outside, so I'm not going to be trading. But if I was to, trade anybody's money, which I do for my friends and family, I would do the same thing that I'm doing right now. I would put it in an account. I would do the exact same trades that I'm doing. Usually I'm in a trade. There's two types of trading that I do. One is day trading, which is I'm in and out the same day, right? 3 to 5 trades a day, in and out the same day. The other is called swing trading, where I might be in a stock and hold it for 3 days or 5 days or maybe 2 weeks, right? And I'm in and out every week or so. So that's the kind of style I would focus that on, because in that style, you could generate a lot better returns than if you would giving a fund manager. Because a lot of these fund managers, their goal is to give you 8%, right? That's what the market historically will give you. If you put it in the market, you'll get about 8% average. But it's possible that those funds were generating 30, 40, 50% from your money, but only giving you 8%. That's a lot of the practices that happen in the market. So for me, I have the strategy that I can use to generate 30, 40, 50%. And I would do that strategy with anybody's money. I think learning how to do it is the best thing, because you don't have to pay fees. Right? Once you learn how to do it, you can open up your own brokerage account, take the trades without having to pay those fees, and you would get all of that, a return that you're generating rather than giving it to fund managers and fees.
Does your strategy work whether it's a bull market or a bear market?
Yes, because I do both longs and shorts. So long would mean betting on the prices to go higher. Short would mean you're betting on the prices to go lower. So in any given time, I'm usually in a mix of both longs and shorts. So when the market goes up, the longs will make me like 2 times what my losing trades are going to cost me, right? But the market's going down, then the short trades are going to make me 2 times what our winning trades are going to lose for me. So in any market environment, I will be pretty much profitable.
Is there any markets that you think that we should keep our eye on right now?
Right now, I am personally in a position of if you're in the long-term investments, if you're in any big accounts, or maybe if you're nearing retirement, I'm in actually the boat of not having too much money in the market right now. Uncertain about next year. So personally for me, maybe I'm wrong, but a lot of my long-term investments, I've started going in cash because I think next year is going to be a tough year for the markets. We're seeing some signs of that. I think we're going to make one more new high before, start pulling back. And I think people should be getting into the position that maybe trimming some positions, especially if you're close to retirement. Because if you're young in your 20s and 30s, doesn't matter. You can hold on. Market might go down for the next 10 years, but eventually it'll come right back up. But if you're somebody who's, in your 60s, 70s, 80s, you might need that money in the next 5 years, right? Then might be a good time to maybe start moving into cash a little bit.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of where I'm at.
Is there any industries that we should watch more than another? I mean, is it pharmaceuticals or is it technology?
I think right now we need to focus on marijuana stocks, because right now, marijuana, obviously Canada, it's legal. Some states of the United States, it's legal. But a lot of the states, most of the states of the United States, is still not legal, right? But there are some cannabis stocks that have done, producing good amount of income in Canada, right? They're also listed on the U.S. Stock Exchange, right? And some of the cannabis stocks you need to focus on because it hasn't even become legal in all 50 states yet. Once it becomes legal, I think those cannabis stocks are going to be like the cigarette companies, right? Philip Morris, it's a huge company that sells cigarette. And imagine if marijuana is recreationally legal all across the United States, right? Those companies could be at par with companies like Philip Morris, Marlboro, and all these big brands. So I think that it's just starting right now.
Are you talking about cannabis or hemp?
I'm talking about cannabis.
Cannabis?
Yeah.
You don't think the hemp market's going to be?
I think hemp market's going to be good, but it's definitely not going to be as big as cannabis, just because recreational cannabis. Let's compare to alcohol, right?
Right.
Look at how big alcohol market is, right? You go to clubs, you go to bars, you go to restaurants, you go to 7-Eleven, you go to Costco. I mean, alcohol is everywhere. Now imagine if marijuana was to get to the same level where you could buy it at a 7-Eleven as a cigarette would, right?
Yeah.
It's going to take time to play out. First they're going to make it recreationally legal. Then it's going to be through dispensaries like we have it right now, where you can buy it from dispensaries. But as it gets more and more legalized everywhere, you're going to start seeing cigarette companies package cigarettes with marijuana in it, and you'll be able to purchase it in 7-Eleven. I think that's still 10 years out. But as a long-term play, I think cannabis is going to be higher than what alcohol and tobacco markets make.
Wow. I mean, because they were huge in the day.
Exactly. And I think cannabis has the potential to be bigger because it's not just recreational. It's got medicinal benefits, unlike alcohol or cigarettes that don't really have, many medical benefits, actually harms you than does you good. And cannabis has been used for, people been using to treat leukemia and autoimmune diseases and seizures and all of those things. So I think the benefits of that, and now it's shown to cut cancer cells. So, just those benefits and it also being recreational, I think is a much larger market.
Right. Do you ever think that we'll see anything like we saw in 29 when we had, I know there's fluctuations in the market. It's always up and down and it bounces around. But, we had Black Tuesday and then the crash of 20. Do you think that is ever a possibility again?
Yes. I mean, not maybe to this extent that we saw back in the day, but from the current levels, I mean, I do think it could drop, 20% or more. So I think, we do have the potential. There's always a potential. Market's been in a 10-year straight uptrend, straight bull run. Historically, every 5 to 10 years, you get a crash. This time, we haven't really got one for 10 plus years. So we're definitely overdue for one historically, right? But it might not be to the extent that we saw back in the day. It might just be in certain sectors, right? So for example, we're already seeing that retail stocks are going bankrupt, right? So you're going to see those mini crashes, not overall in the big market, but in certain sectors like retail is going to get crushed, which already we're seeing. JCPenney is actually now a penny stock, which is crazy. So Macy's, GameStop is next, Nordstrom, they're all eventually going to fade away. So I think you're going to see crashes in those sectors like retail, but then certain sectors like tech, pharmaceuticals, I think they're going to continue to do well.
Yeah, I guess the thing is to be diverse in somewhat,
Yeah. I mean, I think the questions I always tell people is just look at it and see, is the company or stock that I'm investing in going to be more significant or less significant in 5 years? So say, is Amazon going to do more business or less in 5 years? Well, the answer is more. Okay, that might be something you want to be in. Is GameStop going to do more business in the next 5 years? Probably not. So that's something you not want to be in, right? So I think that simple rule, people who are not even investors can use. Is the company going to do more or less, going to be more significant or less significant in the next 5 years? And that's kind of the model that you can use to make your investing decisions.
Yeah, one of the things that just dawned on me is I guess you really have to be well read because you have to know political, you have to know social, you have to know the economical trends that are coming. All these trends play a major role in how your thought process goes and become part of your psychology. So you have to be multidimensional in your approach to the trends that are going on so you can pick up on the new trends and learn what it is. I guess that's really important. You can't be just sitting at your computer trading all day and not pay attention to the world around you.
Right, exactly. And you can just look at your own life, right? Say, hey, am I ordering more stuff online now, or am I actually going to retail stores, right? Am I Amazoning a lot of the stuff, or am I actually driving and getting stuff physically? If you're not doing it, chances are a lot of people are also buying it online. So it was something that people should have seen coming, right? Like Amazon should have been a no-brainer investment for people 5 years ago. You'd be more than doubled your money in that time. And it was a simple investing decision. Are more people going to use Amazon in the next 5 years or less? Are more people going to order food online in the next 5 years or less? So that's kind of what you can use to invest in things like Grubhub, which also, tripled from, in the last 3 years. So, there's simple investing decisions like that, what you can use if you're not a trader, right? If you are a trader, then obviously we have specific patterns and strategies, and you just use those rather than using your mind. Just execute on those strategies like a robot. But the other thing, obviously, is just look at it. For example, right now, one thing you can ask yourself is cannabis going to be more relevant or less in the next 5 years? Well, once it becomes legal, the answer is yes, it's going to be more. Or is, retail like Nordstrom, all that, are they going to make more money in the next 5 years or less? The answer is less. So that's something that you might want to be either short in, if not long,
Yeah, one of the things that I was thinking about is that in 1983 or 4, this is kind of a story that I'll tell you about me. My attorney came to me, and I live in Austin, Texas. My attorney came to me and she said, "Hey, Art, I know a company that is just starting out and they need some seed money." And I actually owned a construction company then, and we were doing very well. Even in a down economy, we were really booming. And, I had $10,000 that I could invest that she said, go invest. So instead of taking a word for it, I asked her, I said, what's it about? And she said, well, there's a young UT student who wants to start a computer company. He wants to start this computer company, and he's looking for some seed money. I put 10,000 in it, and I'm suggesting that you do it. And I said, well, I don't know anything about computers, so I think I'm gonna walk away from it. 3 years later, Michael Dell had Dell Computer going full strength, and she happened to be his early on attorney. And I just went, oh golly! But it never really affected me because I was doing well and I was happy and everything. And I just didn't know anything about computers, and so I didn't invest in it. And maybe I should have, maybe I shouldn't. Maybe it would have changed my whole life and direction of everything. But I can't look back and say, hey, you either do or don't at the time. And you can't cry over spilt milk. So
exactly. And you're going to have a lot of those things, like every trader, every investor has those things that, I wish I should have done it. But, shoulda, woulda, coulda, it's gone. It's not really going to change anything. You made the best decision as far as, you were concerned in that moment in time with the information you had. Because it could very well have been, you put in $10,000 and just like 1,000 of the computer companies that came and went, it could have been another one of those where you could have lost the money in. So, I think I always tell people, invest in what you know. And Warren Buffett talks about this. Invest in what you know. Invest in what you can, add value to or have some information about. And you want to also trust your gut in that regard, to make the right decision. Because I can tell you this, you didn't invest. Okay, there's a little regret. But maybe you did invest without knowing anything. You'd actually feel worse about yourself. Because you're like, why did I put $10,000? I didn't know nothing about it. And then you end up losing that money. So I think that, to me, is a worse feeling than, as I tell people, I'd rather be out of a trade wishing I was in than being in wishing I was out.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now, you've written a book, right?
Yes.
Can you tell us something about your book?
Sure. So the book's called Prepping for Success, 10 Keys for Making It in Life. It's a book I wish somebody gave me 10 years ago. Would have made life a lot more easier, because I spent a lot of time, learning personal development, self-development, going to workshops and seminars, and, working with hundreds of thousands of traders, and also working on myself when I was a beginner trader, going through these issues. And what I learned is a lot of the stuff that we traders go through are also same stuff that other businesses go through as well, and then I spent countless hours, hundreds of thousands of dollars, like workshops, masterminds, and things of that nature. But then I realized not everybody has that amount of money and time to spend into, this kind of personal development. So I took everything on my journey that I learned from hundreds of books that I read, to workshops, to masterminds, and just compiled everything into 10 keys that I think if people execute on are going to cause the biggest impact in their life. And there's not much stories in the book. It's not much fluff. It's straight to the point. Here are the 10 things we need to do to achieve success. And every chapter ends with actionable 5 things. Here's the actionable steps you need to do before you move on to the next chapter. Because I don't want it to be one of those books that people buy is just lying in there, catching dust like hundreds of other books. I want them to actually finish it. And I don't want them to move to the next chapter before they execute on what they learned on the first chapter. Because that's another one of the things that I did and people do, is they go from one book to another, one workshop to another, one course to another, but they've rarely executed on what they just learned or read. So that's the whole idea about the book that I wrote, Prepping for Success.
Yeah, I just read a statistic on the percentage of people that finish a book and finish an online course. The number of people that finish a book is like 10%. The number of people that finish an online course is only 13%. And it doesn't matter if the course is a $10,000 course or whether it's a $100 course or a $50 book or a $10 book. Across the board, it was astonishing to me that people would invest in themselves and then not complete a course or not complete a book, reading. But my book is written the same way as yours is. At the end of every chapter are actionable steps that people can take to get them where they need to be. So, we're very much in alignment with that. Where can people get a hold of you? What are your websites and, social media and all that? Because we're going to wrap it up here pretty quick.
Sure. If they want to learn more about the trading and investing side of things, then the best website to go to would be livetraders.com, LIVE traders.com. That's where they can learn more about trading and investing by reading a lot of the blog posts and the free ebooks that we have on the website and watching our YouTube videos. That's the best way they can learn more about it. If they're interested in the book, the website is preppingforsuccess.com/book. So they go to preppingforsuccess.com/book. There they can get more information about the book, get some free chapters, and then there'll be links to Amazon or Barnes & Nobles that if they want to get themselves a copy, they can absolutely do that. And as far as staying in touch with me, Instagram is the best way. Instagram.com/Delta90. That's my username on it. DELTANINETY. There's a whole story behind why I have the name. Tell you another time, but Instagram Delta90 and the same username on Twitter as well. And that's where they can get in touch with me.
Is there any parting inspiration that you can give us?
I think one of the things I would just say, which is the first key in the 10 keys of my book, is integrity. Be a person of integrity. Really pay attention to what comes out of your mouth, and what comes out of your mouth, make sure you actually do it, and you do it when you said you were going to do it. Even small things like, maybe your parents are calling you or your mom's calling you, and you say, hey, I'm just in the middle of something. Let me give you a call back. And you never did. That's a lack of integrity, right? Maybe a friend was calling, hey, it's been a long time. We haven't met up. We should totally meet up. You're like, yeah, next Saturday, let's plan something. Let's meet up. And you never actually followed up. You never actually met, right? So just those things, those little things also cause a lack of integrity. So just notice in your life, take a deep breath tonight, sit with yourself and see, what have I been saying that I'm going to do, which I haven't been doing? Could be as simple as calling a friend. Hey, I'm just driving. Let me give you a call back. And you never did. Call that friend back. So there's little things. Just start doing what you said you were going to do, and notice how your self-confidence and your self-worth increases, and everything starts from there. Without integrity, nothing else works.
Boy, those are wise words. And I want to thank you for being on the show and all. This has been really enlightening. Different show for me, because we usually get into really heavy psychological stuff, but we've covered the psychological points of investing and that. But I think I agree with you that integrity is the key to having a successful life, and being a person of your word is paramount. So I want to thank you for being on the show. It's been an honor to have you here. And we're going to have you back another time, because now I'm intrigued by Delta 99, is it? Delta 99 or 90?
Delta 90.
Yeah, Delta 90. Now I got to figure that one out. So anyway, audience, thank you for being with us this week. And you know how to get a hold of Anmol, and it'll be in the show notes. And you know how to get a hold of me, expectationtherapy.com. It's been a great show this week, and I look forward to having you back next week. And Heather White, can you take us out?
Thanks for listening to the show. Drop us your comments and questions with what you want answered on the show. You can subscribe on iTunes and Binge Network. You can also get more information on the website, expectationtherapy.com.